Hello and welcome back to Season 6 of the NMMA. We just completed our first sim with a lot of very exciting results. Our newest GM, Luke, in charge of the Lakers, completed not one, not two, but 9 trades in the 5 days since he took over the team. Incredible turnaround. So let's go ahead and jump in and see how that and other moves have affected the standings. Starting off in the East, the St. Vincent St. Mary Fighting Irish, after losing Tim Duncan to retirement in this offseason, amazingly has improved their chemistry significantly and hold the best point differential in the East, sitting in the 1 seed with a 28-5 record. That is a very good development for Locke. Cleveland Cavaliers sit not too far behind in the 2 seed. I was actually kind of expecting a regression from this team, especially after a yet another season of not amazing progression for Jimmy Butler, and yet here we are, 26-8 is one of the best records they've had this entire league. The Atlanta Hawks with a 12.8 differential and 23-10 record, probably still working out a little bit of their chemistry with their very new look, losing Brandon Jennings and starting Kevin Love now. But I think that once they have that chemistry worked out, this is probably going to be the team to beat in the East. We'll see how that point differential ends up shaking out with the Fighting Irish, but man, I hope that we have that matchup in the playoffs. Now, the biggest shock of the league thus far, the Washington Wizards, sitting in the lottery for basically every single season, I think, thus far in the league, now are in the 4 seed. They made an amazing acquisition just before the Sim 1 deadline to acquire Danilo Gallinari, and acquired Lou Williams also over the offseason, with a little bit of good progression from Joel Embiid turning into an amazing defender. They are at a 19-12 record, above the Orlando Magic, our reigning champs. Incredible. The Orlando Magic are in the 5 seed, just, 1.5 games back from the 4 seed, but only have a plus 1.6 differential, by far the worst they've had this entire league. They swapped out Kevin Love and Melo for Josh Smith and Brandon Jennings. And this team, I think, has a ton of potential, and also will have to work out some chemistry issues. I do expect them to finish in the top 4, but for now, they have some growing to do. The Chicago Bulls in the 6th seed, not too far behind. I don't think they made any sort of major acquisitions over the offseason. They did bring in Corey Maggette from free agency, but they were sitting at just a barely positive point differential. Another big impressive development, the Toronto Raptors, after signing Manu Ginobili and having good progression for Clint Flores, as well as Anthony Bennett and Harrison Barnes, are sitting in the 7th seed now. Great draft pick Kembe Mutombo also looking quite good. 16-14, they are 2 games above 500, although they do have a negative point differential, but future is bright in Toronto. The Detroit Pistons sitting in the 8th seed after drafting Rondé Hollis Jefferson, running I believe, auto rotation, are looking decently strong with a 500 record. They probably could make some coaching optimizations or even an external move, though, to improve their ceiling and retake that top 5 seed that they've had the past 2 seasons. The New York Knicks, the once and always 9 seed, brought in Tony Parker just before the Sim 1 deadline for pretty cheap and had some great progression for Terrence Ross. J.J. Hickson also looking very good as their starting center. I was kind of expecting them to at least attempt to tank, and maybe C-Man is, but winners win. And here we are, 1 game below 500 and looking in the play-in race. And rounding out the play-in teams, the Miami Heat, yet again, now moving Kevin Durant back to the 3 and Zach Randolph to the 4, with Edmund Wagner now having progressed enough to play the 5. This team, I really don't know why they haven't clicked this entire league. They have changed up their chemistry and their personnel quite a bit, and yet here we are, 2 games below 500. I am really hoping that they end up working something out, because KD deserves something, a competitive team who's deep in the playoffs. Now, the Indiana Pacers in the 11th seed drafted Karl Anthony Towns and traded for Carmelo Anthony, 2-time champ. This is an extremely strong front court, perhaps a bit crowded and not a lot of defense after trading out Josh Smith. They could probably use a better point guard as well. But they're 3 games below 500 and have improved by 2 seeds from last season. So, a little bit of upwards movement is good. Hopefully they can be a play-in team. The Philadelphia 76ers, after Mike Conley hit the coldest shot in the entire NMMA history to knock the Hawks out in round 1 last year, are sitting in the 12th seed. I don't know why. They brought back all of their personnel, and they should be a strong team. Perhaps this is a fluke and they'll end up working things out, or perhaps they've stagnated a little bit and the playoff run was a little bit of a fluke. Who knows? I believe in the 76ers. I think they're going to be a straight off playoff team in the top 6 seeds. Time will tell, though. The Milwaukee Bucks, my biggest whiff in my power rankings was that I thought this team was going to have progressed quite a bit. I think benching Brandon Knight over and starting Shabazz Napier might be contributing to why this team is struggling a little bit, which isn't that bad because, I mean, they will still be in the lottery yet again. But I think this team has a lot more gas in the tank, that they could be a play-in team, probably like a 7-8 seed if they tried. New Jersey Nets sitting in the 14 seed. They didn't get much progression from either Bertans or Isaiah Thomas. Will Barton, I saw, had a pretty good summer league, and they drafted Jahlil Okafor, but they're still struggling mightily and going to be looking at a high lottery pick if they do have it this year. I don't really recall. And finally, rounding out the Eastern Conference, the Charlotte Hornets sitting at a 7-25 record. You know, the dark times are still upon us, but Darren Williams up to a 90 overall still. Didn't have any sort of regression over the offseason, which is nice. Curious to see if they end up holding him or if they try to flip him. Moving over to the West, with a 25-7 record and a plus 17.8 differential, the best they've had the entire league, the Denver Nuggets, after a very disappointing finals loss, are back at it with the 1 seed, and I think this is going to be the team to beat this year. I think they have a chip on their shoulder. They have the reigning MVP, and things are clicking in a way that they just weren't even last season. With a 24-6 record, kind of surprisingly awful defense. Although we do have a plus 16.5 differential, good for second in the league. The now rebranded Houston Rockets, we are benching Kyrie Irving, running him as the sixth man, and that may be contributing a little bit to the poorer defense. But I don't entirely know why we're struggling. I still believe in this team. 24-6, you can't really call struggling. Now, the second biggest surprise, although maybe not a huge surprise here, the Phoenix Suns. After living the entire league in the 7-10 seed, they made a massive trade, moving third place clutch player of the year, Kendall Marshall, to the Atlanta Hawks for Jeff Teague, Oscar Schmidt, and Al Jefferson, bringing in amazing depth. This team is looking all cylinders firing, all steam ahead, 23-12 in the 3 seed. I am very curious to see what the ceiling is of this team. If they can keep this up, they could very well be a conference finals team. I could see them beating the Rockets. In the 4 seed, not too far behind, with by far the best defense in the league, 93.4 points per game given up, which is crazy considering we have now progressed into partially the modern era. This progression that they've seen for Drummond and Giannis has been incredible. And although their offense is still lacking quite a bit with only 101 points per game, I think that's good for like the bottom 5 or 6 in the league. The defense is absolutely real, and the Minnesota Timberwolves are a team that every contending team in the West wants to avoid. Now, the Los Angeles Lakers, under new management, having made a couple of great trades and that mostly boiled down to bringing in six-man Jordan Farmar and some second-round picks, they have improved a little bit to the 5 seed. Chemistry be damned, did not really matter because they have improved their offense and they are sitting firmly in the playoff race. The Golden State Warriors, another team that I was kind of sleeping on, at a 20-13 record, just 1 game back from the 5 seed and a plus 3.2 differential. You know, the progression that they got from Klay Thompson, Jordan Crawford turning out to be the star that he is, and bringing in Emeka Okafor just for cash considerations, all very good moves, and this team is looking to be a playoff team. I hope they can keep it up. A big surprise here, the Sacramento Kings, I personally had in the top 4 in the West, probably. They are struggling a little bit. I don't entirely know why, and I wouldn't be that concerned. Bringing in a star like Rudy Gay is probably contributing to them figuring out some chemistry issues. I think that they're going to be a playoff team and will probably raise this ceiling. New Orleans Pelicans are sitting pretty firmly in the play-in, with both Damian Lillard and Bradley Beal looking clutch as hell, and great pairing with Chris Bosh. The new-look Pelicans have turned over a new leaf, and although they are just barely a negative point differential, I think that they should be happy with the results. once and always the 9 seed in the West. This is pretty much the Knicks of the West. Wabby Spurs. I don't think they had any major progression. They did probably for Eric Bledsoe, who I think was most improved player last year. And they did have a great rookie event for Jeremy Grant. But, this team probably needs to shake things up a little bit in order to raise their ceiling. The Vancouver Grizzlies remain in the 10 seed, even after making a good draft pick in Roy McCormick, who looks like probably is not playing. But signed Elton Brand, who I thought was a great acquisition. I think this team still has bigger heights that they could reach, and they'll probably be a little bit better. I think they're going to be firmly in the play-in. Now the Portland Trailblazers are chasing that play-in very close, though, after drafting Kristaps Porzingis. Didn't have any progression for Victor Oladipo. However, Brevin Baker up to an 87 overall after working on his three-point shot during a suspension last year. Negative 5.4 differential ain't great, but the future is definitely bright in Portland. Another big surprise, the Utah Jazz. I think this Carlos Boozer pairing is just not really working. I think they probably need a little bit more defense. And Paul George is looking incredible. He's putting up probably all NBA numbers, maybe even first team all NBA. But their downgrade from Rodney Stuckey to George Hill really hasn't panned out. They do have the picks where they could make a move to either blow it up and amass more picks or raise the ceiling by adding a better point guard. Very curious to see what they end up doing. Negative 8-point differential is just not going to do it, though, with a possible MVP candidate on your team. In the 13 seed, the Dallas Mavericks, they drafted Devin Booker, who I'm kind of surprised they're not starting to get a little bit more looks. Regardless, they do have a lot of growing to do. Seattle Supersonics, I kind of thought we were going to be better than this. 6-25 is crazy bad. D'Angelo Russell, Zach LaVine, Kelly Oubre, Justice Winslow, and Rudy Gobert. Honestly, a very strong starting five for the future. Probably just need a couple of years more progression, but Rudy Gobert looking like he is going to be in DPOY form not long from now. Tyus Jones, also a great second-round pick. The Oklahoma City Thunder round out the West with the 15 seed. I think the JDK is not going to be too upset about that, though, as they could bring in yet another lottery pick. Matthew Mayer, probably going to be a most improved player candidate here. Negative 14.2 differential, I think, is good for the worst in the league. All right, now let's take a look at team stats. All right, first we're going to sort by points per game. Although the defense has definitely regressed for the Rockets, we are 6 points over the number 2 spot for points per game. So that modern offense is still clicking years into this build. Crazy how good the Timberwolves are, despite being 24th best offense. For points allowed per game. Big shout out to the Cavs for improving their defense so much. I wonder if they're running a different system. And for offensive rating, remember that if you see a big difference between your offensive or defensive rating and your points per game or points allowed per game, that likely indicates that you're either over or underperforming. So if you have a much higher offensive rating but lower points per game, then you can probably expect yourself to regress to the mean a little bit and score a little bit better than you are, and vice versa if your offensive rating is low but you have a high points per game. Usually those things end up leveling out. Shout out to the Sonics for not, I guess they're in just barely the bottom quartile, or bottom third of teams in terms of defense, but things are looking better, especially with Rudy Gobert. And for point differential. Suns at number 7. Extremely impressive. Kings down to number 11 is kind of crazy. You'd think they have a chip on their shoulder after that disappointing loss in the playoffs. Suns at number 2 for field goals made. That is a dominant offense. I think it's very much going to boil down to what their matchup is in the playoffs. They could maybe stand to upgrade Jeff Teague. I think there's some moves that could be made around the edges, or even they could trade for a star. But they're in position to compete for the first time in the league, so I'd probably take a crack at it. But I mean, there is an argument to just appreciate what you have right now and not mortgage your future. I'd be very curious to see what J-Watch does. Rockets shooting just 2 thousandths away from 50% from the field. Incredible that's happening despite the struggles. Cavs leading the way with 12.8 three-pointers made per game. That is definitely a huge part of their success. Magic way down in the three-point race. Fighting Irish in the bottom 5 in three-pointers made. I think shooting is probably the main thing that they need to acquire. I'm very curious how Jimmy Butler is shooting threes. I know that haters got him on that very early in his career. So if that's panned out, that is definitely a huge reason why they're hitting so much beyond the arc. Wizards with the 6th most free throws made per game. That's probably contributing to their surprising success here. Magic down in the bottom 5. That's crazy. Nuggets, unsurprisingly, at the top of the free throws attempted. They are always getting to the line between that crazy backcourt of Curry and Rose. Magic, the 3rd fewest free throws attempted. That is really crazy. Hawks at 22 in free throw percentage is kind of surprising. Although I guess they are a pretty big, heavy team. You may notice that we are showing a lot more team stats than before. I had a couple of requests to sort by a lot of these different stats, and I am always down to include more data. So just go ahead and let me know if there's anything else that you want to see. I am not going to be showing advanced stats right now just to try to limit the length of the video some, but if you do want your advanced stats for any individual players or for your team, you can just let me know and I'll definitely be down to send that your way. Crazy how many good teams have a very low defensive rebound percentage. And maybe just because we focus on running in transition so much. You would think that with the Magic being the 4th highest assists per game of any team, that they would have a higher free throw percentage as well, because usually both of those correlate with guard stats so much. Curious to see if they regress to the mean or if they actually do have a free throw shooting problem. Because you figure that at least both Rubio and Jennings are getting to the line a lot. Hawks with a comfortable lead in terms of blocks per game, even after losing Jefferson. You know, Love ain't getting those blocks, so that is really a testament to AD. Curious to see if he's going to be in the DPOY race this year. Yeah, I think we'll show, yeah, points off turnovers. Good indication of how much your defense is actually converting to offense on the other side. Probably not second chance points, but let's go bench points. And opponent field goal percentage, as well as opponent three-point percentage. I just realized I sorted this the wrong way. We should be going the opposite direction. So these are actually the worst now at the bottom. The low number is better for this. Hawks, the best perimeter defenders at 28%. Whew. They are stopping people on the arc for sure. Very curious to see how the Hawks are going to pair up against some of the better three-point shooting teams. Okay. Now let's take a look at rookie reports. So D'Angelo Russell leading rookies 17.2 points per game and 7.4 assists. That is very impressive. Julius Randle not far behind at 16 and 8, also very good. I'd say the biggest shock here is Devin Booker scoring below 10 points per game. I think part of that is because of the minutes that he's getting. Oops, was only going down to 25. So Booker's playing, 22 minutes per game, so that definitely is contributing to it. Karl Anthony Towns with just under a double-double at 9.5 rebounds per game. Big shout-out UT legend Miles Turner for making it into the league. He may not be rebounding great now or probably ever. I mean, 7.3 rebounds pretty good, but 2.1 blocks per game in his rookie season is amazing. He's probably leading rookies. We'll see soon. TJ McConnell, drafted by the Cavs, maybe that is a huge reason why they are even better this season. Second among rookies in assists per game. That is a very good sign. Two Sonics leading rookies in steals per game. Goes to underscore just how high the heights are going to be for that team in the future. Milestone, not 2.1, 1.9, just under the 2 block per game threshold. Impressive that Towns is as high as he is. You know, of course, he's a big, but doesn't always get the blocks that you may hope he would. Devin Booker shooting 30% beyond the arc is definitely suboptimal. He probably has a couple of years more progression before he's going to be great. Towns not taking any three-pointers, that's pretty crazy. He may need his tendencies tweaked. Yeah, 0. No attempts. Okay. Now let's take a look at draft picks. This is up to date with the Sim 1 deadline. So as always, remember that if there are any 2016 or 17 picks that are labeled Trailblazers, such as this, that is actually a Fighting Irish pick, and vice versa. Labeled Fighting Irish for 2016 and 17 means that it is actually a Trailblazers pick. But starting in 2018, that is going to be reversed, and the names will match. So almost there. Sonics with just a disgusting amount of picks considering how great their young core already is. Those Hornets picks, there's two more left to convey. They could really be the bellwether of where this league is going to head. Big shout out to the Trailblazers, too, almost in the play-in and looking like they have an amazing stockpile of picks as well. Okay, now let's take a look at cap sheets. Let me make sure that salary cap is turned off. So please be updating your sheet. It's most important to do that after the Sim 3 video, but it is still important to be doing that throughout so you don't have as much work. Usually it's about a 15-minute process and nothing too crazy, but that will definitely help with any sort of slowdowns during the off season. Some big boy contracts here for the Bulls. A lot of decent mins though as well, so large discrepancy between the big and small contracts on that team, but it is working for them. Love the new Hawks rebranding. It's a nice custom logo. The Heat with some contracts falling off the books here. Daquan Cook, Marvin Williams, Zach Randolph, they should have a lot of cap space if they do want to retool around KD in the offseason. Remember that the cap will not be increasing, at least as we plan it. If we do end up needing to increase it for whatever reason, then we absolutely can. But I think that we've reached a sweet spot with flat contracts and how much the cap has already increased that we won't need to increase it again. So this 83.64 million per year salary cap number is likely what's going to be sticking through the rest of the league. A Tony Parker contract is going to get a lot cheaper next year. Curious to see if the Knicks wait to flip him then, or if they try to hold. Could be important for retooling if he still has a couple more years left in him. Pistons with Joe Johnson falling off the books after this year. That will definitely be giving them some cap space, unless they decide to extend him. Kind of at a turning point for that franchise. Okay. Now let's take a look at player stats. We're going to be trying to show a little bit more player stats than we have in the past, scrolling all the way to the right. First, let's show it. Yeah, just here, 3 minutes. And now we'll go all the way to the right so that you can see some of these others. Bear with me here. Carmelo Anthony only scoring 17.8 points per game is kind of crazy. Granted, there are a lot of mouths to feed in the front court here. Man, Dwayne Wade, 25 points per game, 6.2 rebounds, 6.5 assists, 1.9 steals, and 1.3 blocks. Was that what that was? Along with being a 3 seed, he very well is going to be an MVP candidate, which is crazy to think because he's like 34 now, showing no signs of stopping. Okay, that'll do it. So let's now take a look at league leaders, which I excluded by mistake before. Okay, so Paul George significantly leading Dwayne Wade, Blake Griffin, and Bradley Beal as the top scorer in the league. Amazingly, Kevin Durant is now down to the 5th place after like 4 straight scoring titles or something crazy at 25.6 points per game. I don't think that's actually any indication of him slowing down. Probably just a little bit of tweaks to the personnel there, but still kind of crazy. Chris Paul scoring 20 points per game still is great. DeMarcus Cousins, Boogie leading rebounds per game. Andre Drummond not far behind at all. Notably, Dwight has dropped down just a little bit to 10.6. Rajon Rondo, 11.7 assists per game. Whew. He is just climbing the all-time charts. Shout out Kendall Marshall with a 19th place, 7.3 assists per game. Point Manu, too, rounding out the top 25. Paul George also leading in steals per game at 2.6. That's amazing. Rubio still no slouch with 2. Back to leading blocks per game by a country mile at 3.5. So that is 4.6 stocks per game. Insane numbers. Rudy Gobert. Honestly, he may already be the DPOY leader. We'll see after next video. And for field goal percentage, Julian Wright, huh? Impressed that he's leading the pack as a wing. James Harden at 15, quite impressive, 0.526. Elton Brand running out the top 25, that's nice. And 3-point percentage, JJ Redick, KD, Rhino, Jay Crowder, and Charlie Villanueva. Top 3 are no surprise. Myers Leonard at number 13, that's kind of crazy. Wonder how many he's taken. I think you have to take a notable amount to even qualify. And the count is now up to 9 players that we have over that fabled 3 3-pointers made per game mark. The 3-point revolution is accelerating. You can compare this to Sim 1, and so many more players are scoring behind the arc. Okay, now let's take a look at system proficiencies now that we have updated lineups. Okay. Next, we're going to take a look at contract extensions. Remember that you get 2 contract extensions to complete during the regular season and then 1 in the off season. Both Kobe and Powell willing to re-sign for the Lakers. Big news for Luke, whether or not he chooses to move him. Dirk refusing to re-sign with the Warriors. That's too bad, especially when they're finally good. Okay, and now we're going to take a look at upcoming free agents. Remember that this includes not just unrestricted free agents who actually will be available, but also restricted free agents like Giannis here, who is almost certainly going to be offered and matched by the Wolves. So you can mentally exclude him. But also this includes player options and team options. So we don't know if those players are actually going to end up being available, but these are the players just with expiring contracts for whatever reason. So you can broadly try to figure out who is going to be a free agent. Also, a lot of these players are going to extend, so the list will be far shorter. We'll go down through 78s. Okay, and then here is the list of current free agents in case you want to make any signings. I'm not going to sort by age here. You'll have to go back to the free agent period 1 video to see that by age. There weren't a lot of young players who were signed in free agency anyhow. I think it was probably just Matthew Mayer. I think Jeremy Holden also was signed just prior to Sim 1. We'll go through 72 overalls. Oh, and something fun that I noticed that you could do here, which I was not doing in the past videos, is that we can see how much every player wants. So let me go to the top and do that for at least the top players. Yeah, that expected value. Cool. So now you can get an idea of how much the player wants and see if, whether or not they fit into your cap space. All right, that's about all you get for that because everybody else will pretty much be minimums. Okay, so the next deadline is probably going to be set for Sunday evening, I believe. You still need to talk to the mods about that to confirm it. But until then, happy signing, happy trading.